Changli is coming back soon, and it is by no means an overstatement to say that she is one of the most popular characters within Wuthering Waves. But for her initial release, she wasn't that good. However, where does she stand now? Now that so many characters have come out and people have finally figured out what Changli's true usage is, what are her biggest pros and cons, and should you pull for Changli? That's what I'm going to be answering in this video. The first thing anyone needs to discuss whenever Changli is involved is just how brilliant she is when it comes to a dual carry team. Now, I've made an entire video on the strength of the dual carry niche and why it is so good, but chances are you haven't seen that video. Essentially, in that video, I discussed how dual carry works, why it is so good, and what the advantages are to running it and the disadvantages. Dual carry is essentially a team archetype that exploits one very vital mechanic within Wuthering Waves, being the swap cancel. Now, what a swap cancel means is swapping out in the middle of an attack and letting the animation continue while the character is off field, allowing you to essentially control two characters at the same time. However, sure, you won't always have two characters on the field, because swapping still has its standard 1 second cooldown, but you will effectively, half the time, have two characters on the field doing stuff, and that is incredibly strong. Stronger than any buff you can really give that character. Giving them just a second DPS to work with is incredibly powerful, assuming they have enough swap cancel windows to truly take advantage of it, and Changli is the #1 exploiter of this archetype, because, oh dear lord, she has the largest amount of swap cancels within her kit. Both of the casts of her skill, her 4th basic attack on the ground, all of her true sight attacks, and her forte heavy attack are all examples of insanely good quick swap windows. And Changli just is so easy at just popping in, throwing out a skill, and then getting out again. Because not only are her swap cancel windows amazing, you can also swap them extremely early on in the animation, making it so that Changli is by far the biggest exploiter of this mechanic. And whenever dual carry is mentioned, you're always going to be seeing Changli there, because while Changliwuwa or Phoebe are good dual carriers, Changli is just built different. And as a sort of extension of this makes Changli insanely flexible when it comes to her teams, because oh my lord, dual carry is applicable with almost any DPS in the game. Even those who just outright reject it are able to be played in dual carry, mainly talking about Carlotta here. You see, Carlotta punishes you for swapping out of her during her ultimate, meaning that theoretically, you don't want to swap cancel with her. However, somehow, Changli managed to weasel her way in there, because that's what she is. An invasive rodent who will invade the team of any DPS she gets her grubby little hands on. Because if the character has any sort of benefit from swapping, Changli will throw herself in there instantly. She is one of the best teammates for Carlotta, for Phoebe, for Changliwuwa, even works with Calcharo. Hello, is there even a single DPS that doesn't play with this character? Oh, right, GN. That's the only DPS that cannot play with Changli. Even then, it's not that he can't, it's just that it's really hard to manage. So if you can get that working, you can even play GN and Changli. You can even play Jinshi Changli. There is no limit to what teams Changli can just throw herself in there. And the best part about this is, like I said before when I was talking about GN, this means that Changli has a ridiculously high skill ceiling. And when I say ridiculously, I do mean it. If you're really good at the game, Changli can give you some of the best results in the entire game, rivaling characters like Jinshi and Carlotta, quite easily in fact. The only character who can even compete with her at this high level of gameplay is Jinshi, who is perhaps one of the best characters in the game if we're talking about high levels of play. And being able to just sit up there is incredibly impressive, based on how low her floor is. Changli is a character all about optimization, and if you love all of that optimization and just figuring out the best rotation, then Changli is going to be a great pickup for you if you find that fun. Because I'm going to tell you this, I usually play my Phoebe. However, when I just want to enjoy my time in the game, I grab my Changli, because she's just that enjoyable. But of course it's not all sunshine and rainbows, it never is. So what are some of the negatives revolving Changli? Well, first of all, it's kind of hard to get started on her. Changli is a very knowledge-based character. You need to know her swap windows, exactly when to swap them, and then when you're playing her with another DPS, you have to know their swap windows, and you can't just be too frivolous about your swaps, because if you get interrupted by an enemy attacking you, that is a big damage loss. Interruption is still a big danger, and if you're only focusing on your own characters, you will be punished for it by an enemy that's doing an attack that you weren't ready for. It's just extremely hard to actually get locked in on Changli, but once you do get locked in, you do get a big reward for it. So if you're not willing to put in the time or the effort to really get Changli going, maybe it's not that smart to go for her. Unless you're going for Brant as well, and you play her in more of a hypercarry-esque setup where you don't really concern yourself with swap windows. Second of all, Changli's nature as an invasive rodent usually means that she's not entirely wanted in a team, because every character always has their best support, and Changli merely serves as an alternative to this support. Because if we look at Changli's best synergies, the characters that she's used with always have a viable alternative. Her team with Changliao, she can be easily replaced with a Yinlin, who will be able to buff Changliao to hell and back, and also create for an easier rotation. So that means that if you're not that good at the game, you can just run Yinlin with your Changliao instead. If we're talking about a team with Jinchi, you can just use Zhezhi, because Zhezhi will be able to buff Jinchi a lot, and also the coordinate attacks will make it so Jinchi can stack her incandescence faster than she normally would. So Changli is yet again replaceable. If we are talking about a team with Carlotta, we gotta get the same idea with Zhezhi, except instead of trading coordinated attacks and buffing, you just get even more buffing and energy for your Carlotta, as well as a way more comfortable rotation. So every single team that Changli performs well in, there's always someone who will be able to compete very closely at a certain skill level. And then for the final con, Changli, while she is good if you're good at the game, falls off of a cliff if you are not good at the game. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. There can be a lot of factors that you're playing with if you are a Wuthering Waves player. After all, a lot of PC players tend to think that this game isn't that hard. But we have to look at the wider community here. First of all, there's mobile players. The mobile interface is extremely unfriendly for people who are trying to swap cancel, because the attack buttons and character swapping buttons are on the exact same side of the screen, meaning your right hand will be using so much more effort than your left hand, which is used exclusively for controlling the character. So there's a lot more strain on your hands. Whereas, if you're playing on PC, the load for quick swapping is a lot more equally distributed, with your left hand handling skills, ults, and then your swapping, and your left hand being used for camera movement and also attacking. Meaning that if you're playing on mobile, it's a lot harder to quick swap. It gets even worse if you have slow reaction times as a person. This is not something you can control. Some people just naturally have worse reaction times. And if you're unable to react to what's happening around you in the environment, swapping around is going to be hard. You can just be too slow to swap from one character to the other when you are mid-animation, which can be a very big bummer. Because if you cannot truly get those reactions down, it's going to be hard for you to optimize your Changli, and she's going to end up falling behind the supports that I mentioned earlier, because Changli just requires more effort naturally. And if you don't have much time to practice your Changli combos, it's going to get hard to really get a grip for how the character feels, because ultimately, practice is a lot of the work when it comes to mastering a character, because at a certain point it just becomes muscle memory. But if you do not have the time in your daily life to really learn Changli's rotations, it can be quite hard to actually get the potential out of her. But that's just my thoughts. Are you going to be pulling on Changli? I am not, because I already have her and her weapon, so I don't need to pull, but I'm definitely going to be picking up a Brant to play alongside her. Quickswap is one of my favorite team archetypes in the entire game, and it's no surprise that I like to quickswap with a lot of different characters, and Changli really inspired my love for this archetype alongside Changliao. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments below, but if you want to make sure that I read them, you should be able to join my Discord, which is linked in the description. I'm very active in there. If you found the video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. Additionally, I also stream every Saturday at 2 p.m. Central European Time, so if you want to ask me something personally, I will probably be live around that time. However, if you just want to hang out with me, that's also fine. I've also set up an account review form on my Discord, so if you want me to do an account review, be sure to join, and then during my stream, be sure to check out when I am doing account reviews, because I might be getting to your account. But that'll be it from me. Peace.